Welcome to Tech Talk 2020, the show where we get smarter together. I'm Sanjay Parker, your humble and excited Tech Talk show host today. I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Mike Carswell, and today we're going to be talking about airline glitches and the computer industry. How is it possible that a little glitch in a computer system can ground thousands of flights? We're going to learn more about that today.
I don't know how it's possible. Hey, everybody. Mike Carswell here, and so glad to be here with you this evening here on Tech Talk 2020, WINT 1330 AM radio, and also WINT 101.5 FM. You guys know we're AM and we're FM now, so that's exciting. And you can also listen to us at WINTradio.com. Glad to be here. I'm very glad that I wasn't traveling last week when there was computer problems throughout the country, specifically causing Delta to have a lot of trouble with getting passengers back and forth. You spend more time in the airport these days than I do. How's airplane travel changed in the last 20 years?
You know, that's a great question. It's never fun for those who travel a lot. It sounds exciting. You know, it's great to take the family on vacation, but it's not so much about the journey anymore. It's about the destination. So I'm just looking forward to getting to where I'm going to go with the minimal fuss. I will say it's pretty amazing how much gets done with how many people. And people, if they travel once a year, even if they've traveled 10 times before, they still forget to take off their shoes. They have stuff in their pockets. And, you know, it really, the same things over and over again. To be an airline or airport employee and see that and maintain your level of interest is pretty amazing. So hats off to those guys and gals.
Well, I actually have to say, for a while there, when I did travel quite a bit, I used to feel like I was always the guy that they were going to stop. I was always the guy, pull over, step over here, sir, step over here. And actually, last time I was in Vegas, traveled through Vegas, to Vegas or whatever, I started drinking a Coca-Cola, got halfway through my Coke and forgot about it, stuck it in my bag. I get through security and they go, "Sir, can you step over this way, please?" And they pull up my half-finished Coca-Cola. And I said, "I'm so sorry. I completely forgot about that."
I know people who even right after 9/11, they went through security lines with water bottles in their cargo pants, and it never gets detected. So,
wow.
I mean, it's really I want them to stop anybody, including me, if there's any suspicion. I'd rather have that level of comfort than thinking they're not going to, tag somebody. So anyway, with the airlines, I mean, you know that there's multiple airlines, right? But in the U.S., 80% of domestic flights are handled by 4 carriers. Do you know who they are?
Wow, let me guess. Southwest?
Yes.
Southwest was always the wonderful Airbus.
Yeah, you get kind of herded on there like cattle, right? But very good.
I used to always, I would generally pay for a business select, which kind of got me in the A line.
Oh, it did?
It was only to $20 more or whatever. So
I just saw people jockeying for position. Everybody, I got on a Southwest flight once late, and the only thing that was left were middle seats, right? So I had to be the guy who ruined somebody's flight because I sat right in the middle, and they're probably thinking, like, why us? Why us?
So I never could do the middle seat thing. I'm 6'5".
I had no choice.
I'm 6'5". I could never do the middle seat thing. I did have to do it one time, I believe. I flew to California between 2 guys that weighed more than me, and I was in the center. That was a tough trip.
Wow.
That was a tough trip.
Wow.
I'll never forget that one. But you mentioned 9/11 real quick here. So, number one, you said Southwest Airlines would probably be significant domestic carrier. United Airways would be number 2, I'm assuming. Delta would probably be there.
You got it.
And then my fourth one, it could be one of the newer lines, which would be Spirit or Frontier. Or, are you giving me a hint over there? You got me, man.
I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America. American Airlines.
You got it. Ding, 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 ding.
What do I win? Absolutely nothing. But hey, we just got smarter together. Now I know the top 4 airlines.
80% of domestic flights. You know how many different systems those 4 airlines use for tracking all their flights and stuff, their computer systems?
No. You want me to guess again? You're killing me.
Well, here. Okay. So airlines, they all have to talk to each other.
Yes.
So there's 4 different airlines. They have 5 different computer systems. Southwest has 2.
Wow.
One for its domestic, one for its international. If you ever call Southwest, they'll ask you, is this for domestic or international? Because it's totally 2 different systems.
Okay.
That don't quite talk to each other. But what happened Monday was in Atlanta,
Was it Monday? I forget
Yeah,
what day it was.
Monday.
It was Monday, okay.
Delta said...
You know what Delta stands for, right?
Uh-uh.
The old acronym?
No.
Don't ever leave the airport.
That's horrible.
That's really bad. I'm
I
sorry,
like
Delta folks.
I really like Delta.
I've never had a bad Delta flight. I apologize.
I've had incredible Delta flights.
Anyway, don't ever leave the airport.
So power cut Monday morning in Atlanta
Okay.
caused some delays across the U.S. and Japan and Italy. This is all interconnected. So the power was cut. Now, there was supposed to be a redundant system, right? So we'll talk about that a little bit later. But
Okay.
that affected the airport check-in systems. That affected the passenger advisory screens. You know, it affected the airline's website, its smartphone apps, which are tied into it. 650 flights were canceled and 2,000 delayed.
Oh, man. Well, so hang on. So back up. So normally when you have a flight delay, it's because something's wrong with the landing gear. You know, they're waiting for Jim to finish up his coffee here, and he's holding us a plane because he's at this coffee shop. But you're telling me that this was the screens. I mean, it sounded like it affected a lot of things, not just one area.
Everything's tied in, right?
Okay.
So
That's really abnormal, correct?
it's normal for systems to be integrated to that effect. It's abnormal for that system to go down. So Delta had an issue with some super cheap fares due to a glitch in 2014. A few weeks ago, Southwest had an issue that affected 2,000 flights. So it happens, right? Because everything's so interconnected. For example, so the flights resumed 6 hours later, but think about 6 hours of takeoffs, connections, crews, people, airports, all of that interconnected downstream. Wow. It's going to take days and days at the earliest to get people on new flights that are already booked. Delta is very efficient in terms of how they schedule their flights, and so they're really good at capacity, really good at on time. Anything like this just trips it. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back. So they're working hard. The CEO Ed Bastian came on. I kind of give him props for this. He came on Twitter and announced an apology. So he had a public apology, put it out there, Twitter, social media, and said, "Hey, we're so sorry. It's affecting you. We're working our hardest to fix it."
He's definitely not a politician, is he?
What would a politician do? Just blame somebody else?
Well, I think that, I don't know. I'm not going to get into that, but that's good. That you know what? I think half the battle in anything is that if you make a slip up or something happens that really inconveniences others, the sooner you come out and apologize and say, "We'll do our best to never let this happen again," the world's just a better place.
Yeah. So Delta has 180 million people flying on their planes a year.
Wow.
And they have over 80,000 people as employees. I mean, this is a huge operation. So it was, and the failure happened in Atlanta, which is where, Atlanta, Hartford, they have most of their flights come in, right? So a big deal. Anyway.
That's a big airport.
That's a big airport.
That's a huge airport.
For sure, for sure. And so how does this happen? Well, airline computer systems, they know things about you. They know your name. They know your credit card info. They know your final destination, and all of that stuff. Today you can't travel on a major airline without computers, without that system, right?
Okay.
So when computers go down, having little vouchers or flyers, that doesn't really to help you that much,
It's time to rent a car, folks.
Especially because all this stuff is now tied into the no-fly lists, into watch lists for terrorists. I mean, you really have to have an online system to keep order under that. So this ties into the other systems that allow you to book flights. So if you go on Expedia or Orbitz, right, and you want to see if there's availability on a certain flight.
What is it, cheapoair.com?
Yeah, I haven't tried that one.
Don't ever use that one.
Kayak is another.
I got burned with Cheapo Air.
Really? What happened? Tell us the story.
It's a long story, but my daughter got burned with Cheapo Air, and I just don't even want to go there, but it was rough.
In Indian, cheapo means get out of here. Like if somebody comes up to you with a ridiculous statement, you're like, cheapo, like get out of here.
In English, cheapo is just something you need to stay away from anyway.
Yeah.
Cheapo?
Like my mom said, good things no cheap, cheap things no good.
I like your mom.
So, ties into the other systems, right? So ties into the airline's financial systems on profitability, but the systems also know when and where the planes are in the air, when they're at the gate,
Gotcha.
when they have pushed off, and when they've just landed. Imagine an airline not knowing any of that. All the flights in the air, of course, they're able to land. The pilots knew where to take them. They were on schedule. But nothing else could take off because you don't know what is going to be waiting for you anywhere.
So you're saying that the ones that are in the air were fine. So if you'd taken off, you were doing just fine.
Yeah, because we have humans who are making those decisions, and getting to that destination. And
That's
humans
one of the
didn't go down.
first times I've heard you say you like humans.
I love humans.
You don't like humans. You like machines and technology. So to hear you talk about humans and relying on them, that's a first, and I'm writing this down.
Let me clarify. I don't like humans doing mundane tasks. I think we're above that. We need the machines to do it.
Yeah.
But you do need skill, right?
It's just talent.
To the skill of the pilots, we got back all of the planes in the air, all safe, even though there was no tracking of them in terms of that central system. So, different airlines have their own systems, as I mentioned, right? And so all of those things have to connect together. So there's this huge, massive, interconnected set of systems today between airlines, within airlines, between external sites. Some experts say the problem is that it lacks sufficient investment.
Okay.
And lacks sufficient skill, and lacks sufficient cooperation in terms of its planning and redundancy, and that we're going to see more and more of this.
Okay, so just for the slow brains again, this glitch, this crashing of the computers affected scheduling, like the schedule board that we see when we walk into the airport and we see when our flight is coming, arriving, that went kaput. Our ability to check in at the checkout counter as well as at the gate or whatever, that went kaput. And you mentioned one other aspect of it went kaput. So
online reservations.
So if I was trying to book a flight for on Monday for this next week, I would have gone to the site and it would have shown me that I can't do it right now.
Right, and that's probably the least of the concerns, right?
Sure.
That's lost revenue opportunities, right? But that's not 2,000 people stuck in an airport with the employees of the airline not even having enough info. They can't even get information on what's going on. Imagine that. So now the employees are just as
they have
unavailable to pull info.
They have telephone. Somebody could call them and say, each terminal. And I'm sure they handled it just as the best that they could.
I haven't seen a phone behind a gate counter
There's
in
phone
a long
back
time.
There's phone.
The ones they announce on the overhead, maybe. Hey, everybody, just stay put.
Sanjay wants to live in this Star Trek world, guys.
Some people are stuck on the runway, right? And so some of their
also folks that were in there looking to take off, they were stuck as well.
They were told to get back out, or if they were stuck on there for a while, I guess some employees brought pizza for some people. To try to keep
I have one quick story about the airport that I'm regretfully telling you here. Is that so? I went to Chicago, and I'm coming back from Chicago, and I get on a plane, and I knew the thunderstorm was coming. So there's a thunderstorm. I'm all prepared. I'm like, man, if we just take off within the next 5 minutes, I can see it in the sky. We're going to beat this thing.
Didn't happen.
We got on the runway. We were like two planes away from taking off, and then started to turn around, and it brought us back to the terminal. So good old Mike Carswell here. I always used to mock the guy that they would be paging to the plane's ready to leave. Where are you? So it was the NBA playoffs. And I was in one of those booths charging my phone, but also watching the game on my phone.
It was you?
It was me. So they were paging me throughout the airport. I'm the guy that's holding the plane up from leaving. Well, I mean, it should have left the first time. But anyway, so I'm in the airport and I'm watching watching the Cavs and the Bulls play. And next thing you know, I come out, look around, and I don't see any familiar sights or faces. And I said, hey, did flight 692 leave already? That guy looks at me and goes, we were paging you. It's right there. It's going right there.
Oh, man.
So I flew home. I got home about 4 hours later than I planned. But I did see the rest of the game.
I've gotten on the wrong plane.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm challenging some guy who's like, I think I have that 7F. I'm like, no, 7F. We're looking at it. It's like, oh, you're going to Dallas. This one's going to Tennessee. And I was so embarrassed, and I just sheepishly took my thing and left. Everybody's smiling and probably laughing at me. But
that's funny.
They actually let me get on. It was such a rush, that they got me on there.
Wow.
And it was like one of the first times I traveled. But when we come back after the jump, we're going to talk more about how this type of outage happened, and don't the airline companies have backups? Well, let's find out when we get back.
I don't know how they can do that. Hey. We'll see you in a few moments. We're going to play a little commercials and pay somebody or pay the bills here. Glad you joined us here on Tech Talk 2020, 1330 AM, WINT Integrity Radio. Also 101.5 FM, WINT Integrity Radio. I love saying the FM. FM. Try it out if you're local. And WINTradio.com. You can hear us. So we'll talk to you after the break.
Pat O'Brien Chevrolet is your commercial truck headquarters. We have dump trucks, chassis cabs, pickups, cargo vans, flatbeds, every kind of truck for every kind of job. If you're a business owner looking for a truck, we got them. Come get them at Pat O'Brien Chevrolet.
Average sports fan ponders his evening.
Wow, tonight is a big night for sports on TV, but small choices in my fridge. What about Players Club at Lost Nation Sports Park? The Players Club has big energy, but small, cozy atmosphere. Big TVs, small drive. Big happy hour, small prices. Big parking lot, small hassle. Awesome burgers, big salad, lots of appetizers. Okay, that's it. I'm going tonight.
The Players Club at Lost Nation Sports Park. Yeah, it's a big deal. Small wonder.
Lake County Fair Senior Day is Thursday, August 18th. The first 200 seniors age 60 plus get seated in main entertainment tent and receive a free boxed lunch from the Council on Aging. First come, first serve. Lunch tickets handed out to first 200 seniors on Fairgrounds Day of event, Thursday, August 18th.
Everyone says there are secrets, dirty secrets to business success. I'm Jack Mancini.
And I'm Adam Sonhalter. So what are those dirty secrets beyond just a good idea and hard work that will make you successful?
Join us every Monday at noon as we debunk the common myths of business ownership, expose the impact of government regulation and political correctness, share small business success stories.
And most importantly, reveal the many lesser-known dirty secrets of small business.
Mondays at noon on Integrity Radio, WINT 1330 AM and WINTradio.com.
Welcome back to Tech Talk 2020 with Sanjay Parker, the show where we get smarter together. I'm here with my co-host, Mike Carswell. Today we're talking about airline outages recently in the news, how these computer systems are so critical to these airlines, and how on earth can they go down. And so I wanted to give you guys a little bit of insight into that, and hopefully it's an enjoyable, not planes, systems. So
how did they go down? Hi, guys. I'm back. This is Mike. And Sanjay always makes fun of me because he thinks he's smarter. But we're all getting smarter together, shall we? So, yeah, how did this thing occur? I mean, such a big glitch. How many people were affected? You hear the number of that? You said 2,000 flights or something.
650 flights canceled, 2,000 delayed. Oh, man. Wow. Think about an average flight, maybe 100 to 300 people. I mean, that is ridiculously large.
Nightmare. I'm glad. Well, I could never say I'm glad it happened. But, you know, there's certain weeks in this world that something like that happens would be more of a catastrophe. Think of if that was during Thanksgiving week or if that was during the week of the Olympics.
Yeah, or if it was the week that, the Cavs
Olympics
had to go out to Golden State to win Game 7 and they were on a Delta flight. Wow.
Don't those guys fly private?
Not always.
No. I think they do.
Do they? I don't know.
They
They're
probably
charter flights. Probably have charter flights.
Back in the day.
But I remember this. I remember reading like one player, they were talking about how athletes blew all their money, and one of them, I forgot who it was, he wanted to go from somewhere to Tennessee in privacy, so he bought every seat on a plane.
Right.
I think he spent like, I don't know, $62,000 so he could fly. But he's bankrupt now. I don't know why.
Well, there was a guy on last week on radio. I was listening to him, and his name was Lenny Dykstra. It might be Lenny Dykstra. He did some crazy things there because the guy made some jack, but then he did some prison time. He did some crazy things. He talked about clearly the fact of being in a private plane. Once you go to a private plane for travel, you really hate going commercial. It's probably like once you have a car, you don't want to ride the bus anymore.
Yeah, yeah, unless you use a lot of gas.
No, no one wants to ride the train or the bus if you have your own vehicle.
Yeah, or your autonomous vehicle, for sure.
Ooh, that's coming.
It's like a bus, though. Kind of drives you where you need to go.
Yeah, that would be a bus car. Let's move on. That's really silly.
Okay, so anyway, experts, why are these outages happening? It's happening, on a basis that's, significant. It costs a lot of money to any of the airlines where this kind of goes down. And experts have said this rash of outages that we're seeing and will continue to see is because there's this massive interconnected set of systems and there's not enough financial backing and investment in it, and there's not enough trained professionals. So we'll see what happens with the postmortem in terms of, figuring out what happened here, whether it'll be released or not. But, some IT professionals are saying that Delta has spent millions of dollars on a backup system for their computers. Of course, they built in redundancy. They're a very smart company, and they realized the investment. However, what happened was when the power went out in the primary data center, it never failed over to the backup data center. So
when you say it never failed over, what do you mean by that?
So, for example, if I have let's say on a remember those? Here's an idea. Here's an example. Remember in the old days, some cars used to have a reserve fuel tank?
Yes.
When you get like 5 miles a gallon or whatever, they'd have your main tank, and then you could either flip a switch, or if you ran out of gas in the main tank, it would go to your backup tank.
I've heard of that.
Kind of like that. So today, when you have an infrastructure that's needs uptime, financial systems, etc., you set up your primary data center. Everybody accesses it. It's up online all the time. But there's probes, there's monitors, there's routers that check like hundreds of times a second whether it's getting a response. If it doesn't get a response, it means the site's down. Immediately, it fails over to a backup site. Now, that backup site may or may not scale to the hundreds of millions of users, but it'll keep you going in case there's a problem at the primary site.
Gotcha.
It does it instantly, right? So it can be load balanced or failover. Failover means one site dies, it can go to the next. Load balance means if one site's overwhelmed, part of that traffic can go to the second site. They're identical, and so any changes that happen in the primary site are immediately, shadow copied or file copied over to the backup site. So they're always in sync. That's happening all day long.
I hope everybody listening stayed with you.
But what has to happen? Is when that primary site fails over, all the traffic has to reroute to the backup site. That includes not only the routing, but also the transactional data processing, all of the things that happen. Now you've got your secondary site, and that site then has to transfer that data back to the primary site when that site comes back online. Well, something happened, and some of the IT pros that are kind of trying to analyze this from the outside are saying, it kind of makes sense, because I've had this challenge myself. When I was early in my career, we'd have tape backups, right? And so we'd pop in a tape, and we would, go home, right? You have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday tape, to back up the servers every day. And that Friday tape, you alternated between a Friday 1 and a Friday 2 and a Friday 3 and a Friday 4. So you, at very worst, and you take that Friday tape off-site. So if the building burns down, you've still got one tape, and the greatest length of time you might have to lose is you go back, a couple of weeks or a month. That's it. That's the worst thing that can happen. So, okay. So you have that. So we did that early on. But one thing that I was taught to do is go in and delete stuff.
Okay.
And then try to restore it from tape. Because if the system says it's backing it up, it doesn't mean you'll be able to get it back. Maybe there's a corruption on the tape.
So you did a trial run.
Right. Did a trial run. So what they're saying might not have happened recently is, okay, they've set up the data center, they've tested it, but they haven't tested the failover in a while, right? And there's never a good time when you've got a 24/7 system.
Well, I was going to say, so also to intercept there a little bit, is that if you do have maintenance on one system, is that when you would use that second gas tank too as well?
Okay. Absolutely.
Sure.
Absolutely. Okay. You don't want downtime, right? So,
correct.
And you might have, the challenge as well is if there's maintenance that involves code patches, you might have to take down both systems to do that patching. So you will truly have downtime. But you do it at, for domestic flights, 3 in the morning until 4 in the morning Eastern, right? Or whatever it is.
This system is backing up itself, that kind of thing. Yeah,
come back later. There's no flights leaving or landing at that time domestically, so you're good. So you plan all that stuff. So anyway, some have said that, if a router fails, power cut, hackers or terrorists, whatever it is, it's very serious. And so if you spent millions of dollars on this DR, Disaster Recovery Center, you should be checking it regularly. It's not something that people want to do as an executive because it's downtime and it's inconvenient. You expect your IT pros to handle that. And so those IT pros need to make sure that they figure out how they do it. So anyway, I think you're going to see more of a spotlight on that as we go forward in terms of that redundancy and backup, because it costs millions and millions for each of these airlines that have those glitches.
Well, not only the money, I think that there's got to be some, I'm going to call it branding damage, because if you go to a restaurant and you don't have a good meal, or the waitress is snotty or whatever, it kind of leaves a mark with you. And though you may go back there again, you've got some serious anticipation before you do that. So unfortunately, you got to recover that part of things as well. So that's part of the equation, unfortunately, that Delta had to deal with after Monday's collapse.
Yep, and they're dealing with it. I believe they're giving every person impacted a $200 voucher for any future flight purchase. They're also letting them change their schedule if you were supposed to fly this week, you can change it, I think, up to Friday with no change fees, just so that you're not, waiting in line, because today was probably the first operational day where they're close to capacity.
Oh, so they've been struggling all this week.
Well, yeah, think about it. You've got so say even one flight gets canceled, that's 200 people that have to be put on other flights, and you probably only have a few seats on each flight.
Yeah, how many of those transfer? You're right.
Oh, sure. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So, and you can request to be booked on another airline, and so some people probably did that, but that is, that was a mess. But
yeah, I've only had some, not too many flight problems, but I do remember being in Indianapolis, and in the summertime, like this time of year, there's constant and frequent thunderstorms. So just like from Chicago, the time I flew from Chicago, there was, and I missed my flight. But from Indianapolis,
seems to be a pattern here.
What? Me missing my flight?
Yeah. Was it the same flight you're talking about?
So I'm in Indianapolis. This is really funny. I'll be quick. So the flight gets canceled because of continuous thunderstorms that are coming, not just the one that we were sitting in, but the other ones. So we went to rent a car. And as we're going to rent a car, there's these guys in front of us, and they have a lot of hair. And I look at the girl at the counter, and she looks at the guys that are renting the car, and she goes, "Are you guys Hanson?" The band from the 90s.
The Mbop group.
Mbop, yeah. And the guy kind of nods his head, and she goes, "Okay, I'll be right back."
Really?
Yeah. And she goes, "Okay, I'll be right back." And then she grabbed her face, and she ran back behind the counter, behind a room back there. And her and her girlfriends were like too nervous to take care of them. So, but, it was kind of cool to see that those guys had to rent a car just like me, doggone it.
Wow. That is very cool.
They drove a different place in Cleveland, though. So that was my moment with stardom.
That's cool. Yeah, I mean, this industry is all about safety. So that is a primary concern, right? But I think they're going to have to get into some level of operational excellence. The IT folks, it's changing a little bit where they understand business more. And there's a lot of things you can do. When's the last time Google was down, right? Or Google DNS?
Sure,
it's very rare because you build in not only secondary redundancies, but tertiary, redundancies, and you keep going and you test it all the time, and you have round robin servers. There's so many cool things to do. Significant investment, significant expertise, but that's how it is. Here's the message. So,
Go.
And this message applies to all of life, and I came up with this when I was preparing for the show. Test for failure. Keep things simple. Be humble and be ready. Just remember that. I think that's my takeaway for this. It applies to IT. It applies to a lot of things. So
repeat
hopefully
that again for our listeners out there so they can chew on it.
Test for failure.
Yep.
Keep things simple. Be humble and be ready.
I like the be humble part too. And you know what? You try to be ready for everything, but you can't always be ready. You do your best, but you try to be ready for everything. Just like Sean's not ready for anything, but he's ready to kick us out of the studio. Hey, thanks for listening to Tech Talk 2020. Hit us up on Twitter, Tech Talk 2020. Hit us up on Facebook. Our website is, our call name is Tech Talk 2020. So thanks for listening. We are so glad that you were here and look forward to hearing to you next week here on 1330 AM, WINT Radio, WINT, and 101.5 FM Integrity Radio. I'm going to get this down soon. But you can always check us out on the internet, wintradio.com.